As someone that shares essential oils with others for a living, it makes total sense that some people, you sort of try to share oils with them in this one way and it just does not resonate. And then you share in this different way and it just totally resonates with them. So I think it's really hitting home. And I'm sure it's hitting home to a lot of people out there that also love to share their oils with others, but can come against some resistance. So do you have any tips for maybe recognizing perhaps the terrain or the perspective that someone would be better receptive towards that message?
Well, what we really emphasize is that each of these terrains have their own listening, their own language, their own perception. And so what's really helpful and useful is to learn the model and understand how to recognize. And it's very easy once you start talking to somebody, they will reveal where they're coming from very quickly in the conversation. And once you have a sense of where they're at and how they're listening and understanding things, you can tailor your conversation to speak to that person so that they can hear what you're saying, they can get the value of it and feel safe by receiving it. And that's really what's driving their listening. So understanding this model is fundamental in all marketing to really be able to understand and language your message to the various people that you're talking to.
Yeah, that's really true what Alan's saying. And in terms of tips of how someone could get started on that, what we usually recommend to people is it's always most helpful to start with understanding your own terrain, because until you understand your own terrain, it's actually quite hard to understand the other ones because they're going to be very different relative to where you're at. So the first thing we would always say to people is, go to our website, 10terrains.com, and do the quiz. It's like a 10-minute quiz. It's really easy to do. And at the end of that, you have the opportunity to get a report, which is like a 30 to 40-page report. And it really explains your terrain, where you're at this point in time in your evolutionary journey, whether you're like really in the middle of that terrain, say you're at square, or maybe you're moving to the next one, maybe you're at square, moving to diamond, and it will give you very different information based on where you're at in that journey. And you'll start to learn about the challenges you're facing and the lessons you're facing and start to understand where you're at. And then we recommend to people reading the book or watching one of our longer videos. And we will be offering some online courses next year as well, so that you can really start to see not just where you're at, but also start to understand the other 9 terrains and how people are operating that are not at your terrain. And then we find that people, once they know their own and they've read the book, they have enough information to start to be able to maybe guess where someone else is at. And also you can always just ask your family member or your friend to do the quiz. It's just a really easy way to find out. But at the same time, you start to get a feel, and you might not always be 100% correct, but over time you start to get a feel pretty quickly for where the other person is at. And the deepest question is really, what does this person need to hear to feel safe? So if you were working with someone, say at Square, at the order-based terrain, and you had figured that out, and you know that they're really not going to feel safe unless they feel like this is an official, sanctioned, mainstream thing that you're offering them, you'd have to find ways to show them that there's some research behind this, or that such and such doctor has recommended this, because they really need that in order to feel safe. Whereas someone at Diamond doesn't need that at all. It could be the most radical thing no one ever tried it. It's totally experimental. They just need to understand why it's going to be useful for them at this point in their journey. So you can see that it's really a very different strategy you would need to help that person feel safe.